Teachers, what is the most disturbing thing a student has ever done? 1. When our new school was built, the kids kind of went wild. We are in a 10-story building. There were no screens or grills on the windows. Several teachers would leave their classes open with kids in the room. More than once I was passing by a classroom on the 9th floor and found students dangling their friends from the window. I seriously considered quitting because it was so stressful for me. Thankfully, the behaviors pretty much stopped after the first couple of years. It's been almost 15 years, they finally did block the windows after a kid in a different school jumped. 2. I was an after-school director, kinda like daycare. The day was almost over. I see the custodian marching down the hallway cursing in Spanish, pissed beyond belief. He tells me there's shit all over the bathroom. I walk over to the boys' bathroom. Right outside the door is a mirror, covered in shit. But like, someone drew on it with feces. I was furious. Maybe an hour left of the day and this happens. We always ended the day in the computer lab when there were maybe only 20 kids left. I go to the lab and tell all the boys, happened in the boys' restroom, to stand outside the lab with their hands out. I walk down, one by one, wafting their hands. The very last kid had the most disgusting smell. Not wanting to embarrass him, I tell them all to go back inside the computer lab. And right as the kid before him went in, I pulled Vincent Van Shit to the side. I'm sure he could see the anger in my face. I ask him in the calmest but angriest tone, "Did you smear poop all over the mirror?" He's wide-eyed, nods his head. This kid is the quiet weird one but has never really done anything in the past to ever make me think it would be him. It's against our rules for us and/or the kids, to clean bodily fluids, or in this case, solids. But I was so pissed that I told him he would be the one cleaning it. And in that very moment his dad arrives to pick up. I was nervous that dad was about to be pissed at me. But he was just as angry as I was when I told him what happened, that he agreed that the little boy would clean the mirror. With Mona Lisa finally cleaned off, one of the worst experiences of my life was over. The kid ended up needing therapy. He was in 4th grade and when the teachers heard what happened they started to show a lot more concern for his well-being. I quit that job probably a year later. TLDR, Poo Picasso. 3. About 10 years ago we had a girl in our school who was recruiting for human traffickers. Edit because so many are asking for details. I did another post but I guess not everyone sees it. Adding it below. I live in an area that has good proximity to highways and a lot of motels. The police tell us this is part of what makes the area a hotbed for trafficking. This young girl had a sad story of her own. She had been abused at home, her father eventually dying from a drug overdose. The mother had severe mental health issues. KS had been called in the family several times and resulted in little change. They were always struggling financially but when dad died things got much worse. When she got to high school she was one of the kids who the staff would take care of at Christmas, teachers would try to be a little more understanding etc. By the end of grade 9 the kid's attendance plummeted. She was tail thin and unhealthy. But in grade 10 she was back. She looked better, came to school but rarely came to class. She had new clothes, a new phone, and was picked up and dropped off every day by her stepdad. She soon had a little following of kids who began to have attendance and behavior problems. You can imagine how it was going. The school called Cass and the cops with their suspicions but nothing ever came of it. It wasn't until one of her recruits tried to kill herself that stuff finally started happening. But even then it wasn't until she was in grade 12 that we were finally able to expel her. She was arrested several times and she is currently in the system but I bet when she gets out she goes right back to her old ways. 4. I worked in a private elementary school for a few years as a TA. There was a little boy in 1st grade who was on the darker side. One day we were writing descriptive sentences. All the kids were writing about blue water or brown puppies. This kid wrote about his red park. The park was red from the blood of his friends. I'm not speculating, that's what he told me. The kids were asked to draw a picture of their story, so he had drawn knives on swings and an axe with blood on them. This kid genuinely scared me. He was smaller than the other 1st graders but he had a very high IQ. He used to stalk and hunt other kids on the playground. He would run, tackle and bite them. Since I was a TA, I was outside with him and always had to run and save other kids. We had a meeting with his mom. She explained he had 2 older brothers, 18 and 16. When he came home from school he would play mature-rated video games with his dad and brothers. His dad also took him hunting most weekends. Anyways, he finished the school year but was not invited back. This was 11 years and I always wonder what type of adult he's turned out to be. 5. There was this one group of friends, all tween teen boys. A little rambunctious, but no big deal. Super sweet kids. They liked coming to talk to me about whatever. At one point we were talking about their futures, and I mentioned some general life advice that was something along the lines of, if you're in a conflict, are feeling superheated and you think what you want to do or say is going to give you some immediate relief, sleep on it. Give yourself time to think it through. One of those boys went on to murder a man in the heat of the moment at age 18. Life in prison. I had a lot of feelings seeing him in the news. I still had this image of this sweet boy who'd go out of his way to wave and smile at me through the window of the classroom door. But he was a man now. A man who did something profoundly terrible. Something that can't be undone. We're all capable of horrible things. He'll never get to experience any of the beautiful things that can happen during adulthood. And because of him, a woman will be without her husband, children will be fatherless, etc. I also worked with children who had various types of disabilities. Some had behavior issues so severe that they were in and out of various systems. One had profound mental illnesses and would sit and tell me about the things he'd done, like set his head on fire to get the demons out. He always wore a beanie to cover his burn marks. I found that children were very open to what their diagnoses were, their histories, etc. They shared all unprompted. They just wanted someone to listen. So I heard all sorts of things, but demon part stood out to me. 6. My last year of teacher high school, a student stabbed another in the stomach area with a pen in my classroom while I was writing on the board. They started throwing punches and I had to tackle the attacker to stop it, which still didn't fully stop it, and I'm 6'2" male. When admin was interviewing him with me, he said he slipped and fell, that it was a total accident, which we all knew was a lie but was affecting how we could assign repercussions. Later on Instagram Live, he was talking about how he did it purely out of malice, that the victim was a teacher's pet who deserved a lesson. He got suspended for 5 days and then came right back into our class, and this is a kid who knowingly sold drugs on school grounds before and would tell girls they needed to dress more provocatively and start doing coke on multiple occasions. The victim was crying more from the fear of being yelled at and or hurt by his dad for being involved in a fight, and he was truly one of sweetest students I ever had, always asking how he could learn more even during breaks. 7. My first teaching experience was at a charter school in a very impoverished area. My students often lived with their grandparents or other family members, as their parents were often incarcerated. One thing I heard was that some parents had been incarcerated for robbing a funeral home for formaldehyde to smoke. I didn't even know that was a thing. I heard a lot of sad things from students often, and there were many behavioral issues, not to mention organizational issues. I'm pretty sure the CEO is using the school to wash money, and seems like a lot of people know this. As far as most disturbing thing a child has ever done, I was in a second grade classroom helping support the teacher so she could get some work done during recess with an inside recess BC. The weather was bad. The biggest troublemaker in the class wanted to go to the bathroom. The bathroom next to the classroom was only a one-room bathroom. I took him to the bathroom and waited outside. After a couple minutes I started getting worried because he was still in there. It finally got to the point where I had to knock on the door to ask if he was okay. No response. Had to escalate and get superiors involved. They had to get the janitor to open the door. When they did, they found the student and the entire bathroom covered in poop. His poop. He had literally been in there, just smearing his poop all over the bathroom, and himself. At the time it was horrifyingly gross for me, but what made it that much worse was learning that children at this age who exhibit this behavior are likely being sexually abused. It was a horrible situation, and the school did not do anything to help the students. Purely for money-making purposes. I left teaching shortly thereafter.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.